Nevada, the great silver state and the gold. New tales of Nevada, the stories, people working hard to make a home. Old tales of Nevada.
Hello everybody, welcome to Old Tales of Nevada, past and present. We have a great show for you today. We're talking with an individual who looks at history with a different lens, and we'll explain all of that right after this.
Hey everybody, Dave Asher here down at the Nevada Marketplace in the Reno Town Mall. You know, we all spend a lot of money during the holiday season. Please, this year, shop with Nevada-based locally owned businesses as much as possible. Here at the Nevada Marketplace, we support over 250 local merchants. You're sure to find a perfect gift for everyone on your list. We're open 7 days a week with easy parking, and it's warm inside. We're at the corner of Peckham and Virginia. Go to buynevadafirst.com and keep Reno local.
Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Paula. We're the producers of the Tanner's Marketplace Antique Show, now at the Reno Sparks Convention Center.
We also want you to know about our everyday location at Somewhere in Time, Antique Antiques, Space 46.
You'll find items from local artists, retro, mid-century, rustic, sports, collectibles, antiques, and much more.
You'll find Nevada art, glass, Native American jewelry, and baskets, unusual to unique items.
Find it all at Antique Antiques at Somewhere in Time, Dealer 46.
Welcome everybody to Old Tales of Nevada, past and present. I'm John O'Brien, the host of the show, and with me as usual, our executive producer, Roy Marshall. Roy, good to see you again this week.
Good to see you too.
I think we're up to 310 episodes now.
That's something.
Yeah, we're aging beautifully, aren't we?
Yeah. Must be that moisturizing cream that you gave me.
I think so. That must be it, yeah. Our special guest today is Valerie Lyman. And boy, what a great guest we have, because Valerie looks at history in a different way than most of us do. She uses her camera and does some fantastic things with photography. And so, Valerie, welcome to the show.
Yep.
Thanks for having me, John.
And we kind of know you because you've been up there at the hotel, the Silverland Inn and Suites, right?
Good,
She's been up there for about 6 weeks now, doing some special work on the Comstock, which we're going to talk about as we go through the show. But glad to have you with us finally here on our show. We've been trying to get you over here for the last few weeks, but you were busy with that project, so we had to wait until you get all finished. What we do, Valerie, is go to Roy here, because Roy will explain to us why we have done the show for 310 episodes.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, well, we do the show to bring pride to people in the state of Nevada.
Right.
Because really we have a lot of pride just living here and being part of the state. And just knowing it will maybe help us be a better person too, because this place was very, very famous after the Civil War by coming up with the money necessary in order to pay France, Germany, and England off, which we owed more than what we were worth.
Exactly.
So Abraham Lincoln over here, who we got a pension of over here, he was in dire need for cash. So the guys from the Comstock come up with about $8.5, $9 million, which paid him the money to pay them off.
Yeah.
Which created one part of our great fame, and the other part was created by the development and the invention of the dollar.
Yes. Right down in Carson City.
Right down in Carson City, made out of silver from the Comstock. So
Yeah.
the dollar itself has become a world monetary unit, a whole lot based upon our hard work in this country, made in America.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
We didn't make a lot of stuff.
Nevada's always made a mark for the United States. It's always been a very, very important part of U.S. history, and still today, with everything that goes on. Like you say, we have not only mining, but we have the military here in great quantity. So people...
High tech.
High tech is big too, especially now
they're
with
jumping
TRI.
from California over to here pretty quick.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So people like Valerie come to our state, and they actually live here, and they don't know much about the history of our state and how important it is. So that's the reason why Roy has done the show all these years, 10 years now.
Well, it's a great state.
It'll make another connection between all of us, which is important as
Exactly.
brothers and sisters here on the earth.
Absolutely. And so not only does he have that interest, but he also has a beautiful hotel up there on the Comstock called the Silverland Inn and Suites. And Jim and I are doing the managing
Which we
up
sure
there.
appreciate.
Yeah, and we're doing some good things and making a lot of
Yeah.
progress there. So what's the phone number up there? You remember?
847-4484.
Take your honey up there, right?
Yeah, take that honey up there. Have a romantic time.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I can attest to that myself. I've had a
There you
great
go.
time at the hotel. I've loved living there. Everyone's been so nice. The accommodations are great.
Yeah.
And it's been like home.
Yeah,
It's been
for
a home
sure.
away from
See
home
how
for a long
healthy she
time.
looks?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys will be healthy too.
We took good care of her up
Yeah,
there.
there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
I bet you last night with that full moon.
Well,
it
the,
must
and
have
the
been
last
amazing.
couple nights were so beautiful. And coming in, I was out kind of late, so I drove home.
Yeah.
And there's the moon, over the valley,
Yeah,
and you can see the whole thing. I mean, it's just gorgeous.
Unbelievable,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
when there's no moon, there's stars.
Yeah.
And they're so high up, and
Yeah.
you're so close to them. It seems like you can see them. I mean, you can see them so much better than where I'm
I
from.
hope you got your camera out and took some pictures.
I actually did not. It's quite hard to photograph that.
Yeah, it is.
And it's possible by all means.
Yeah.
But I just felt like enjoying it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
walking around there at night, and how clearly you can see the sky.
yeah,
and
you don't have
stars.
pollution or anything up there, yeah.
I guess not.
Yeah, so 847-4484. It's a great place to stay. Silverland Inn and Suites. And so, Valerie, we want to get to you. Valerie is not from Nevada. In fact, this is one of your extended stays.
That could change.
Yeah, it could change. That's right. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. You are an East Coast girl, are you? Sort of, kind of, or what?
I grew up in different parts of the country.
Uh-huh.
So I grew up in Boston, and that's where I live now, even though, I mean, I'm not really home that much. I'm mostly on the road traveling.
Yeah.
But I live in Boston.
Okay.
I grew up partly there. I also grew up in rural Kansas, like very rural
Rural Kansas.
Yeah. Like
Do you see
often-
Dorothy out there while you were there?
No, a lot of Dorothy jokes stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
But it wasn't that different, to be honest. I lived off a dirt road 40 minutes probably from the nearest town.
Really? On a
Like-
ranch or a farm?
Farm.
No kidding. How big
Yeah.
a farm?
It was a big family farm.
Yeah, big wheat farm or something like that? Corn?
So we had a large garden and all kinds of animals, but then our main crop was sorghum, actually.
Oh, sorghum.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if you know what sorghum is, but I mean, they don't
Yeah,
make it in that
sure.
many parts of the country still, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like molasses.
Oh, I like
It's a
molasses.
sugar cane, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up there, and then I also grew up in Los Angeles, like right in the middle of Los Angeles, Hollywood, actually. So
No kidding.
my life has had a lot of regional diversity within this country,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's one of the reasons that I'm still drawn to different peoples in different places within the country, because I understand how marvelous that is, right?
Yeah.
That there's so many different kinds of people and different ways of being, and so I try to celebrate that and explore it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and yeah.
So how did you get into, let's see, let's start with, you went to school somewhere, right? Where did you go to school?
I went to school in New York City.
New York
Yeah.
City. What, NYU or what?
I actually went to Barnard.
Oh, Barnard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the Women's School of Columbia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah. So, is that where you found your interest in art and photography and movies and all of that sort of thing
It's
that
where
you're
I-
doing now?
It's where my passion for film and documentary started.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. I went there, I was interested in politics, economics, et cetera, but I had been a dancer, and I think after a couple years of not having a creative outlet, I started to crave one.
Oh,
and so,
okay.
yeah, I did. I found documentary film. I took a class, I immediately fell in love with it, and that was pretty much that.
So you were a dancer, and so that's where your creativity comes from. You were in
Yes.
dance, okay, and you did that through high school and into college, and
Not into college. I did it through high school, and then I was injured.
oh, okay,
And
okay.
so, in college, I'd always been real strong in both. Like, I loved the scholastics, and I also loved the creative, artistic part.
Okay.
And once I didn't have that artistic part for a couple years, I started to really look for it, and that's how I
Okay.
found it.
So what? How did that develop? Did you take your little smartphone and you
This
started
is
taking
before
pictures
smartphones.
of Central Park or what?
No, I took a couple I'd always loved documentaries. I would always love to watch them. I also always loved reading biographies. It was kind of the only thing I liked reading.
Mm-hmm.
So I was interested in real life, and I knew that.
Uh-huh.
So I took a documentary class, and I was just immediately in love with it. I was married to it instantly. And
Oh,
so
cool.
So I had one more year of school left, so I took as many classes as I could. I retained my same majors that I'd had. And then I had a little bit of time before I had to start making money right after school. And so I went and volunteered on a bunch of film sets.
Yeah.
And I started actually learning how they worked and just had a great time. I loved everything about it.
Yeah.
I loved the way that people worked together. I loved what we were making. It was exciting.
Yeah, I would imagine that New York would be a mecca for that kind of filmmaking,
Absolutely.
documentaries, short form. There's short form and then there's full length, right?
Yeah.
And you hear a lot about that at the award shows, and very few people actually see those short form.
And they're so good.
I mean, they're so
They're
good.
so good. It's such
Yeah.
a shame we don't have more of a market for shorts of every kind, right?
Yeah.
Fiction or nonfiction.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, all my original training was actually in fiction. So I worked on big fiction films, which was really fun. It's a whole different world. It's a big crew of people. There's a lot of physical labor involved. So you have all these big burly guys, but they're like dreaming about movies all day.
Sure.
So it's a really interesting combination, and it was really fun. I always knew I didn't want to make fiction, but it was a great place to get my training.
Yeah.
And once I had done enough of that, I decided, okay, now it's time to do what I really want to do, which is documentary, and that's kind of a much smaller, leaner crew.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you're sort of, you're engaged with real life in a
So
different
as you
way.
came along, you became a director of photography, right?
Yeah.
In those documentaries.
I did. Well, I started in sound, I should just say, because sound is
Okay,
still so
sound
important
first.
to me.
Yeah.
And sound is still part of my work. And so the first thing that I was interested in mastering in film was actually sound.
Okay.
And most people don't think of sound as being important in a film, but it is. It's half your film.
Yeah, right.
And most people who are interested in making films are very visually oriented people, right? They
Mm-hmm.
don't really think about sound. But for me, that was it's a whole world with its own mysteries and its own feelings and textures, and I thought it was really important. So I learned,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did that first.
Sure.
And that was really my film school. I never went to film school formally.
Oh.
I wanted to, but I never got the chance. And then, so I worked for a few years, about 4 years, on all different kinds of film sets, fiction, corporate stuff, news, documentary,
Amazing.
commercials, everything.
Wow.
And that sort of became my training ground.
Okay.
And once I really knew the whole field and knew what all the different parts were, then I decided, okay, I'm going to do what I really wanted to do, which is make documentary films.
Yeah.
And I got a camera and started filming things and got jobs pretty quickly.
And you eventually became a full-fledged director of a documentary, right?
I mean, I've directed, so the work that I was always interested in as a documentary filmmaker or maker is definitely more short form. So what you were talking about,
Yeah.
something that's more impressionistic, more poetic.
Yes.
And so my own personal work was always a little bit more in that vein, a little bit more experimental.
Yeah.
But when I worked for other people, they're doing long form documentary,
Yeah.
narrative work. So I never directed any long form stuff like that. All mine was short, portraits, and a portrait can be anything, right? It can
Yeah.
be a person, a place, a moment in time, a
Yeah.
feeling.
So that's cool. So all of that background leads you to what you're up to today and what we're going to talk about in more
Absolutely.
detail in our
Yes,
next segment.
directly.
We're going to take a break right now.
Okay.
But I'm very curious to see how that evolution happened. So
Right.
we'll be back and we'll talk more with Valerie Lyman and her photography expertise and creativity right here on the Comstock, in fact, after we hear from a couple of our great sponsors on Old Tales of Nevada, past and present.
Everything is handpicked here at Precision Diamonds. All jewelry is handpicked here at Precision Diamonds.
Come to Precision Diamonds. I'll fix your jewelry just like new.
All of us at Shoeman's Custom Cycle are ready to get you and your Harley ready for the road. From oil and tire changes to high-performance engine upgrades and dyno tuning, we at Shoeman's have got you covered with experienced factory-certified mechanics and a full-service machine shop loaded with parts and accessories. Shoeman's Custom Cycle has been serving Northern Nevada since 1988. So ride on down to Shoeman's Custom Cycle at 275 East 4th Street in downtown Reno.
Shoeman's Custom Cycle, we're the biker's bike shop.
Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Paula. We're the producers of the Tanner's Marketplace Antique Show, now at the Reno Sparks Convention Center.
We also want you to know about our everyday location at Somewhere in Time, Antique Antiques, Space 46.
You'll find items from local artists, retro, mid-century, rustic, sports, collectibles, antiques, and much more.
You'll find Nevada art, glass, Native American jewelry, and baskets, unusual to unique items.
Find it all at Antique Antiques at Somewhere in Time, Dealer 46.
Carpenter's Music World wants to help you unlock your musical potential with their annual used piano sales event. Carpenter's has a warehouse and showroom full of consigned, trade-in, freight damaged, and demo pianos with brand names like Yamaha, Steinway, Kawai, Sommer, and more. Prices starting as low as $599 for verticals and $1,500 for grands. Carpenter's Music World annual used piano sale, the inexpensive way to unlock your musical potential. Carpenter's Music World, 1090 Kitski Lane in Reno. It's the best of the Old West at the 65-room Victorian-style Silverland Inn and Suites in Virginia City. Mountain high and city close, a great place for your next holiday party, seminar, reunion, anniversary, retreat, convention, or wedding. The Silverland has everything you need: ballroom, bar, great rates, service, and more. Only 22 miles from Reno. There is even transportation from Reno to Virginia City available on request. Call 847-4484 today.
Welcome back to Old Tales of Nevada, past and present. We're talking with Valerie Lyman, who is a great photographer and has a great reputation, not only here on the Comstock, but all over the United States. In fact, we're going to find out about all that now.
We need a lot of it done.
Yes, we do. I know Roy always needs people to do that kind of work for him.
We need a lot of it done.
Yeah. So anyway, you, as we left the last segment, you were totally involved in documentaries. I like documentaries because a lot of times they shoot in black and white, you know, and they use the light and they use the shadows, and it's kind of like what they did back in the 40s with the movies, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting.
It's true too.
Yeah, it is.
Generally speaking.
Yeah. So it's really cool to see that kind of filmmaking, because nowadays on the full-length movies, they're all full of color and action, and you miss a lot.
Most documentaries are now as well, but the early phase of documentaries, Fred Wiseman and all those guys who shot in black and white, and they shot in black and white film.
Yeah.
Those are absolutely beautiful pieces of work.
I love it. Yeah. So you did that. Now, you had an evolution as far as your work and your expertise, because you also, not only a photographer, but you also have an interest in history, right? You like in industry and that sort of activity, both boom and bust, I guess I should say.
But all that came together at the same time, and it all actually came together here, very close to here.
Really?
In northwestern Nevada.
Tell us about that.
Which is, so I was, so that's when my photography came up as well.
Okay.
So I was actually, I was sent here to sort of do the sort of beginnings of a possible television show.
Okay.
For Showtime.
And what year were we talking about now?
I'd rather leave the year off, if you don't mind.
Okay. Showtime. A few years ago?
A few years ago. This was a while ago.
Okay.
So I was sent out actually to the Mustang Ranch.
Oh.
And I lived there and filmed there for 2 weeks with Lance Gilman, and Susan was running it at the time as well. And this was like what they call exploratory footage, right?
Okay.
So I was sent out there with another woman, and we were making a piece about the entire thing, the business, the people, portraits of the individual people, from the ladies to the people who were running it.
Wow.
And that was a really interesting experience.
I would imagine.
But and most television jobs are 6-day weeks, so you work 6 days and you get 1 day off.
Mm-hmm.
So on our day off, we decided to go into Virginia City.
Oh.
So I went with this person that I was working with, and we were sort of walking around, and I was just, and I'm sure it's completely redundant to anyone who lives out here, but I'm coming from the East Coast, and I'd never seen anything like this, and I was just immediately struck by how much this looked like an old Western town, or what I imagined an old Western town might look like.
Yeah.
I'd never actually seen one, but I'd seen them in the movies.
Uh-huh.
But the way they were, the way the streets were laid out, the font, the saloons, the whole thing. So I went into a bar, and I said,
and they have plenty of them.
And there were lots of saloons. It's not that I was drinking a lot at the time, but
many choices.
Yeah, well, I mean, a town full of saloons. What are you gonna do? So I went in there, and I pretty much said that to whoever was sitting next to me. And he said, well, if you think this looks like an old Western town, or how it looked 100 years ago, you should see all these abandoned mining towns around here.
Yeah.
And there's lots of them. So that kind of piqued my interest and my curiosity. Next time I had a little money, I came back out west, and I started going around and photographing all these towns. Now, photographing was always something that I had done on my days off, right? I film on my days where I'm working, And on my days off, I wander around with the camera and take pictures. I never considered it a career. I never considered it anything serious. It was just fun. It was just wandering. So I did that. So I wandered around. From town to town, I started taking photographs, and I started getting so interested and kind of steeped in this boom-bust history. And you could kind of see this repeated pattern from place to place.
A lot in Nevada. For sure.
Well, a lot of them are, I went all through Nevada, through Utah, through Northern California. They're all over the country.
Yeah, actually, yes. If you think about the Midwest nowadays, that's definitely boom and bust, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this, this was mostly, gold, silver, and then other mineral mining.
Right.
And lumber, actually.
Lumber, yeah.
But you'd see these towns, you'd go to these towns and you could see, that people came there, they moved there quickly, they settled quickly, they lived hard, they worked hard, the big dreams, they threw it all at the wall. Right. And then oftentimes they abandoned these places just as quickly.
Yeah.
And you could kind of see this pattern through the landscape. And then there were these little historical clues everywhere that I thought were so interesting. So I'm sure you've been to Bodie, California.
Yes, yeah.
So Bodie, California, they had one graveyard for the miners, the regular miners, and then they had a separate graveyard for what they called the ladies of the night. Separate graveyard for the Chinese laborers who built the railroad. And those kind of little snapshots, or you'd go into some place and there'd be a calendar on the wall, the day people left, or an old 1929 bus, sitting outside, things like that.
Sure.
Piqued my imagination. I got really interested in this kind of repeated, not only
that's our mascot
pattern, but the psychology almost that went with it.
Sure.
So that's how I got interested in boom and bust. And then, and I was photographing all along the way because I felt like this was a time capsule and this was like a frozen moment, kind of. So I felt, photography was appropriate. And then I started to hear about people going to North Dakota for oil. And I kind of was hearing about it on the news, and I thought, well, I wonder if it's anything the same as this pattern in the country 100 years ago or 150 years ago. So on a whim and knowing nothing, and like you, I don't do a lot of research on my subjects before I actually go to the place and meet the people and have real encounters. I just went out to North Dakota.
Wow.
And I went down to the train station because that was like the first, because I like trains actually. And the platform was just full of people. I mean, just full of people.
Wow.
Whole families, all their belongings, kids with pillows on their heads, husbands and wives kissing each other goodbye. These really kind of raw emotional scenes playing out on the platform, but that also really did feel like migrations of another era.
This is like in the 90s you're talking about, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm talking about, this was much more recently than that. I think I went out there in 2013.
This was happening.
And the oil boom started in North Dakota in around 2011. Yeah. And they knew there was oil. They've known there was oil there for a long time, but they didn't know how to get it. They didn't have the technology. Now there's a couple technologies that make it possible.
Right.
Both the horizontal drilling and the fracking. But anyhow, so when that happened, people started rushing from all over the country.
Sure.
And it was during the Great Recession. And though some people's lives had come back, a lot of people's lives hadn't, right? And people came from all over the country. And this was a genuine, old-fashioned American migration, not an international migration at all.
Yeah.
And so, you'd stand there and you would just, even that first moment on the train station, when the train rolled in and all these big guys got off the train, with big bags and work boots and work hats, and I could suddenly hear all these different accents in my ears, all these different accents from all over the country, kind of in the same place, and it was so cool.
Yeah.
Which is another reason I started recording. I always carry a microphone with me.
Sure.
Good idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah. That's an amazing story. I did not know it was that. That evident that many people were going there all at the same time. Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, it was, and then but the interesting thing is the whole idea of boom and bust started right here in northwestern Nevada.
Right.
But then it ended up taking me to North Dakota, and then I became so fascinated with it, I decided I wanted to photograph there and then sort of put these photographs next to each other. This phenomenon now, as these towns are ascendant, and 100, the aftermath, not as an indictment, not being critical at all, but just almost as a meditation, historical meditation. So I used the same cameras, which were my old film cameras, and I just started photographing and recording audio and recording conversations with people because it was so fascinating what was happening there. And then I just fell into the place, and I spent the next 4.5 years doing that.
Wow.
Really documenting the entire rise of the oil industry there, from people migrating out there, living in man camps. They wouldn't build housing at first because they weren't sure that the boom was going to last. So they were years late actually in building housing. So people lived in these things called man camps, which some of them are these big corporate run ones, and then other are just makeshift, company lots. But basically they're steel shipping containers, more or less converted. and then finally when, building the towns, building the roads, the oil rig work, the drilling, the fracking, this incredible industrial landscape, which I thought was just so interesting.
It's a great thing you did. Really.
Yeah, for sure. What a
I really
great
enjoyed
project.
it. I really enjoyed it. It was.
So did you collate or organize all of that and make it into some kind of a photographic story?
Absolutely. Story might not be the right word, but 100% I've organized it into. So first I just did a few different articles. I published some in the Guardian and LA Times, Christian Science Monitor, a couple other things so that I could keep going with it. And actually, the Guardian published one of my audio pieces, which I thought was really interesting and very avant-garde of them.
Yeah.
But I was originally thinking that maybe I'd do a book. And then I thought, no, I want to spatialize this material. I was going to do a book with like an audio piece, like a 30-minute, 40-minute audio piece where you hear all these different voices and sounds.
Yeah.
And then I decided, no, I want people to be able to wander around in this the same way that I wandered around in North Dakota or Nevada. And so the way that I'm showing the work now and the way that I'm also folding back into it, this idea of history and boom and bust and this sort of repeated phenomenon in different parts of the country and different industries over time, is by projecting the images onto and throughout old abandoned industrial sites, factories, mills, plants, whatever.
So therefore the project called Breaking Ground came to be?
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was years after I'd already been in North Dakota, and I really have a comprehensive archive, the most comprehensive sort of visual archive of this particular time and place in American history, which I think is actually really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to see what people went through and why did they come out there, and for a lot of people this was their best shot.
Yeah. So you did this in North Dakota then. You took your all your photographs, your audio, and you did an initial presentation up there?
I have not, and I would love to do it. Okay. I want to eventually do some kind of permanent installation there that's almost like a memorial to some of these workers and people who came out there and really started this.
Now, is it still going pretty strong up there? I mean,
it's
now, or is it
waned? Well, so it waned. It's really tied to the price of oil at this point.
Right.
But it'll never be the same. So actually what happened is the U.S. briefly became the largest producer of oil in the world, in part because of these discoveries of shale. North Dakota was the second largest oil producing region of the country, the first being Texas, of course.
Yeah.
And more or less that pretty much scared Saudi Arabia, and they can produce oil for much cheaper than we can.
Absolutely,
it's much easier for them.
We have to take a break, but you can tell us the rest of the story when we come back.
If you want it.
But what a great story. It's a great way to do things. Amazing. We'll be back with more of the story with Valerie Lyman and her photography right after this message on Old Tales of Nevada, past and present.
For over 30 years, the Book Gallery has been serving its customers with a wide selection of books, comics, and DVDs. They specialize in Western Americana, sci-fi, romance, and general fiction. Be sure to ask about their trade policy. 30 years and going strong, the Book Gallery, 1203 North Rock Boulevard in Sparks.
A proud sponsor of Old Tales of Nevada, past and present.
For our cold winter days, jackets and vests are the perfect answer. Faux fur and faux leather are the strong fabrics for this season. Team them with maxi skirts for a beautiful seasonal look. All of this and so much more at Boutique Elegante. The beautiful fall colors are being duplicated in the fall collection of fashions at Boutique Elegante. Sweaters are either in the crayon colors for fall or soft muted shades in bark and beige. All of this and so much more at Boutique Elegante.
All of us at Shoeman's Custom Cycle are ready to get you and your Harley ready for the road. From oil and tire changes to high-performance engine upgrades and dyno tuning, we at Shoeman's have got you covered with experienced factory-certified mechanics and a full-service machine shop loaded with parts and accessories. Shoeman's Custom Cycle has been serving Northern Nevada since 1988, so ride on down to Shoeman's Custom Cycle at 275 East 4th Street in downtown Reno.
Shoeman's Custom Cycle with a biker's bike shop.
Somewhere in Time is the place to find what will be treasured for all time. It's a huge store filled with trains and models, collectibles, art, antiques, and more. You might say they have everything under the sun. Almost. Come see it to believe it at Somewhere in Time in Reno.
Deluxe Travel, locally owned and operating since 1991, is the home for travel to Mexico and Central and South America. The crew at Deluxe Travel is bilingual, trustworthy, thorough, and caring. They will do everything possible to make your dream vacation the best it can be. Now is the time to book for winter travel, so stop by the office at 100 California Avenue or call 686-7000. You can also check us out on our website at deluxetravelLTD.com.
At Deluxe Travel, we sell dreams. Come in and plan yours.
We're back here for our third segment of Old Tales of Nevada Past and Present, and I always take time to reintroduce everybody. I'm John O'Brien, the host of the show. Roy Marshall, our executive producer, is with us today, and our special guest, Valerie Lyman, who is I'm going to say world-famous photographer, and especially with this project you're involved with, Breaking Ground.
Yeah.
And it talks about
freelance too.
Freelance, absolutely.
Very much.
On her own.
And that's pretty gutsy, you know, to go up to North Dakota and stand on a train station. And
they're heavy
that was the
drinkers
beginning.
in those
nobody was paying you to do that.
No, that was all my own volition. I was really interested in it, and I fell in love with it. You know, I became really passionate about it, and every time I went out there, I thought, well, there's something else I didn't get this time, and then I'd go back. And
so you never did a real presentation with all that work you did up there in North Dakota, but evidently people saw the work somehow, some way, which has led to other projects, right? So from North Dakota, where did you go with this project, Breaking Ground, the Boom and Bust, photography and recordings? What was your next leap there?
My next leap was, well, as I said, I wanted to spatialize this material. I wanted people to be able to wander around and explore different corners of this world, you know, the migration, the people coming in, the man camps, the oil rig work, the strip clubs and nightlife and sex work, which I thought was really important to include. It was a huge part of the work there.
Yeah, even up in North Dakota.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
When I first got there, you know, the women who were migrating in for work, that's the work they were doing. So I decided right away to actually treat it as work and photograph it and include it.
Wow.
You know, because for them it was exactly,
Yeah.
What's that?
Nothing else to do in North Dakota in the evening, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, these people were working pretty hard, but I wanted to sort of democratize that and show it as work as well, right?
Sure.
They're only out there because they're making money. Same reason everyone else is on the oil drill or whatever other reason. Anyhow, I wanted people to be able to wander around and kind of explore different corners of this world at their own pace. And so I walked into what's called the Metropolitan Waterworks Museum of Boston, which is the old water pumping station for Boston. It's just this gorgeous old 19th century building, pretty much responsible for Boston being able to develop the way it did because it had these huge, and still has these huge 19th century pumps, which were powerful enough to pump water uphill and etc. And it was the first clean drinking water in the system. It was kind of the height of that type of engineering of the Gilded Age. Anyway, beautiful building. And I just immediately thought, I want to see my work all over these machines and all over these brick walls. And it just came together like that for me mentally. And so I made a proposition to them. They'd never really shown art in there because it was more a museum for like engineers. Anyhow, I set up multiple projectors, probably 15 different projectors, you know, in different spots throughout this building. Yeah, it was really cool, and projected sort of directly onto the machinery and directly onto the, you know, brick walls. So the photographs are kind of mixing with the textures and the structures, you know, sort of directly.
Sure.
And you know, each of these different projectors is playing kind of a different set of photographs, let's say. So maybe each one shows for 10 seconds or whatever it is. And you could kind of the audience could kind of walk around in this and spend as much time in any corner as they wanted. At the same time, I had multiple audio compositions.
Oh, that was going to ask you if you had audio with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not a one-to-one relationship. So I had 6 audio compositions. And they're spread in different places. It is mostly voice. It's mostly people talking in their different accents and their own words about their own lives. And there's some sounds of the place, like trains and machines and bar fights and prairie wind and, you know, other sounds.
How long does it take you to put a project like that together? From beginning to actual presentation?
Well, I mean, I was here. I gave myself here in Nevada. I gave myself a month.
A whole month.
I like to
But
have.
you're proficient at it now. What was it like back in those days?
That's all about all I had. A little more.
Oh, really?
But
Okay.
you know, and I like something like 6 weeks is good for me because I also like. So that one was at home, so that was different, and it was incredibly successful. They absolutely loved it. They immediately asked me back to remount it for a longer period of time, and then I thought, all right, I want to do this all around the country. I don't want to just do it here. I want to go to each region of the country and do it in a site that was part of whatever industry was critical to the development of that region.
I see.
Which is why I did it here in a silver mill.
Yes.
I did it in Pittsburgh in a steel mill.
Right. Yeah. I see.
You know,
Tulsa. You were in Tulsa. What was Silo City? What was that?
Silo City is in Buffalo,
that's
New
Buffalo.
York. And it was huge grain silos, and grain was the industry that made Buffalo rich, right? Like they're right there at the terminus to the Erie Canal.
MIT Central Utilities Plant. Where the heck was that? Boston again? Okay.
That was not an abandoned site. That was actually that was an operating plant. A working utilities plant that makes all the, a lot of the electricity and all of the heating and cooling for MIT's 100 plus buildings. They actually let me in there, which was shocking.
Yeah.
This is a working plant. I'm walking in there, alongside union guys every day.
Taking pictures?
No, not taking pictures, testing and figuring out where I'm going to project the
pictures.
Okay. And so, it was shocking that they let me do that. But I held the exhibit there, and it was only 2 nights, and the public came in, and I mean,
what kind of crowds do you get for your projects?
So many people. It's really different it's different in each region and each place where I am in the country. But at the MIT show, it was absolutely flooded. Like,
no kidding.
A lot of people came. Of course, MIT.
They have that sense of history back there, huh? And
so
they want to know the story.
It became less about history there because this wasn't an abandoned site, right? It wasn't an old site. It was a working, a major working power plant.
Right.
It became more about showing the human side of energy consumption. Is really what it became about there, because that is essentially is an energy plant.
But that wasn't necessarily boom or bust, was it?
It wasn't boom. It was slightly different. I articulated the project differently in that particular place. But what was incredible is it brought all these people. Cambridge is an extremely quaint place, right? Like there's almost no industrial zone. It's very wealthy. It's very, but so no one really knew or knows that there's this massive, power plant right in the middle of it, and they'd certainly never seen the inside of it. So it brought the public into this plant, and see, that was important for me because this infrastructure is really interesting to me. It's already a work of art. Like these huge plants, or whether they're old industrial sites or whether they're operating now, are quite beautiful and elaborate. And to me, they are already works of art, and I want to celebrate them, and I want to bring the public into them. And so that's part of what this project is about as well for me. It's not just about my work and the photographs I've taken and blah, blah, blah. It's about bringing the public into these spaces, which I think are pretty magnificent.
Yeah. So I don't want to, shortchange any of your projects, but I want to get to the Comstock and the Donovan Mill. How did you get that assignment? How did you get that deal? How did that all come about?
As I said, this whole project started for me in Virginia City. Just walking down the street, nothing else. So I thought, I want to bring it back to the same region of the country and find a place to do it. And I want to, of course, something that has to do with the silver and gold industry because that was pretty preeminent. So I just came back. And to be honest, I wasn't even sure of the name of the town. I had just wandered through it for one day. So I came back and I thought, no, this is the town, Virginia City. It looks exactly the same way. So I started looking around for a site. And I came back here about 2 years ago. I found the Donovan about 1.5 years ago. And I, made a relationship with the Comstock Foundation. I reached out to Stephen Saylor, who's the executive director, and he was interested in the piece. And so we started talking about it. I made a couple different trips out to make sure if I thought it was really the right place, and I did. Good. And then, and then we applied.
So let me ask you this, for people who don't know, tell people what the Donovan Mill was.
Well, the Donovan Mill, the Donovan Mill is an old. It's a stamp mill. It was a stamp mill, a working stamp mill for silver and gold, and it's actually where they developed the cyanide and zinc leaching process for processing silver.
Was that the first one to do that?
That is where they developed it and perfected
it. He was the dad of the local surveyor who basically told everybody where everything was.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Mike Donovan was extremely important to the area.
Okay. It was
his dad too.
And you know, I've met so many people. So living in Virginia City for this period of time that I've been doing this work, I've met so many people who knew, who knew Donovan, and so that's really interesting. I mean, people have a very personal connection to it. But yeah, it's where they actually developed, so they stopped using mercury, which was extremely poisonous and obviously killing a lot of people. Now, cyanide is still poisonous, but it's not as poisonous as mercury.
It dissipates where arsenic or whatever, who knows?
I don't know. But anyway, this was, from late 1800s through early 1900s.
Yeah.
This was an extremely important mill, one of the mills on the Comstock Lode. And it's still standing there, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it belongs to the Comstock Foundation.
And they're restoring it to some extent.
They're restoring it so it's somewhat safe for the public, and they're making it more so.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just all these. I mean, there's a number of buildings that make up this mill.
Yeah.
And huge cyanide tanks, both inside and outside, which are pretty gorgeous as well. So yeah.
So what you do then? You go in. First of all, you have to take a bunch of photographs, right?
No, I actually didn't. I'd already taken some photographs of that mill, of that site, as I was going previously, right?
Okay.
And other sort of, sites, no longer working sites.
Okay. So it wasn't just, the photography wasn't just about the Donovan site.
It's not about...
more about the industry itself. Right?
It's not about the Donovan site in a literal sense at all. It's about the history of boom and bust in general. And it's sort of about this dimension of American experience that is repeated in different places, more than it's about any one time or place or specific site. So it includes what happened here in Nevada by using that site itself, right? Like the material surfaces itself.
I got it. So it wasn't just about the Donovan. It was about...
It wasn't really about the Donovan in a technical...
The whole mining experience, both boom and bust.
Correct.
Yeah, wonderful. And how long of a show was it? Was it just a one-nighter?
Mm-mm. Well, it was 3 nights.
3 nights, yeah.
And so, and then how long it was for any individual audience member was just how long they wanted to stay.
Yeah, because you could spend an hour or 3 hours, right?
Exactly. So, so people wander their own way, their own rhythm, their own timing, and some people spend a long time in it. And
we want to take another break here. We're going to come back for our last segment, and I want to know what other plans you have for us here in Nevada. Maybe you'll move here, who knows? But anyway, we'll find out all about that when we come back for our last segment here on Old Tales of Nevada, Past and Present, right after this.
For over 30 years, the Book Gallery has been serving its customers with a wide selection of books, comics, and DVDs. They specialize in Western Americana, sci-fi, romance, and general fiction. Be sure to ask about their trade policy. 30 years and going strong, the Book Gallery, 1203 North Rock Boulevard in Sparks.
A proud sponsor of Old Tales of Nevada, Past and Present.
Everything is handpicked here at Precision Diamonds. All jewelry is handpicked here at Precision Diamonds.
Come to Precision Diamonds. I'll fix your jewelry just like new.
Hey everybody, Dave Asher here down at the Nevada Marketplace in the Reno Town Mall. You know, we all spend a lot of money during the holiday season. Please, this year, shop with Nevada-based locally owned businesses as much as possible. Here at the Nevada Marketplace, we support over 250 local merchants. You're sure to find a perfect gift for everyone on your list. We're open 7 days a week with easy parking and it's warm inside. We're at the corner of Peckham and Virginia. Go to buynevadafirst.com and keep Reno local.
Somewhere in Time is the place to find what will be treasured for all time. It's a huge store filled with trains and models, collectibles, art, antiques, and more. You might say they have everything under the sun. Almost. Come see it to believe it at Somewhere in Time in Reno. Carpenter's Music World wants to help you unlock your musical potential with their annual used piano sales event. Carpenter's has a warehouse and showroom full of consigned, trade-in, freight damaged, and demo pianos with brand names like Yamaha, Steinway, Kawai, Sommer, and more. Prices starting as low as $5.99 for verticals and $1,500 for grands. Carpenter's Music World annual used piano sale, the inexpensive way to unlock your musical potential. Carpenter's Music World, 1090 Kitski Lane in Reno.
Come to Precision Diamonds. I'll fix your jewelry just like new.
For our cold winter days, jackets and vests are the perfect answer. Faux fur and faux leather are the strong fabrics for this season. Team them with maxi skirts for a beautiful seasonal look. All of this and so much more at Boutique Elegante.
It's the best of the Old West at the 65-room Victorian-style Silverland Inn and Suites in Virginia City. Mountain high and city close, a great place for your next holiday party, seminar, reunion, anniversary, retreat, convention, or wedding. The Silverland has everything you need: ballroom, bar, great rates, service, and more. Only 22 miles from Reno. There is even transportation from Reno to Virginia City available on request. Call 847-4484 today. We're back here for our last segment of Old Tales in Nevada, past and present. What a fast hour it's been, huh, you, Roy? We've been learning a lot, great stories, and I got to give you so much credit there, Valerie, because you're like a
get out the guts.
You're like a pioneer. You're getting out there, and you have a passion for this history about boom and bust.
Yeah.
And so, I was going to ask you, what kind of response did you have to the Donovan story or the boom and bust story here in the Comstock?
You know, everyone loved it so much.
They did.
They did. People had a great time. Tons of people came. So I really made a point of living in the town, getting to know people, from the bartenders to the people running the town. Maybe the bartenders
to the hotel managers.
To the hotel managers, all the people living in the hotel. No, and everyone came to the show.
Super.
And see, that's important to me, right? Like, my work is not just for people who think they're arty or interested in the arts or academics or whatever. It's really for everybody. It's for regular people. So I really took the time to make those relationships, and everyone came, and they loved it so much. And I've heard nothing but that for the last week and a half. And it was really fun.
Great.
I mean, it really was wonderful.
You know, I think works like you just performed there, I think it's just another catalyst, for the town itself to focus more and more on the historical past of the Comstock. I think we got away from that over the years because of the movie, the Bonanza TV show in Virginia City. Everybody kind of tied the show to Virginia City. Got away from the real roots of Virginia City and how important of a city that was, and what a boom that was for Nevada.
Right.
And so to have that kind of story, the boom, the bust, and now we're seeing a resurgence of Virginia City, but it's in a different way. It's more about the historical side of it, which can be a lot of fun for people. When you go to the stamp mill, for example, and they have that stamp mill working, and you can imagine when there was 200 of those stamp mills in Virginia City, all working at the same time. The sound of
and
that.
the train whistles and all the people coming there. These were loud, full places, fully busy places.
So dynamic.
Yeah.
So if you can get your imagination going and spend a couple of days up there, you can have a wonderful experience.
Well, I've had a wonderful experience. I have loved being in Virginia City so much, and this entire part of Nevada, I should say, but really, I mean, the whole Comstock Lode area, actually. I've had the time of my life these last 6 weeks. I really have.
Fantastic.
And I already loved it, which is why I came back. But, I mean, I rode the steam train. I got to be up in the cab with the engineer and the fireman, which was really fun.
With Tom Gray?
Well, Tom Gray owns it, but it was Ed who was running it, and then there were different engineers on different days. But, we came, first of all, I love trains anyway, so that was such a thrill, and you hear like that engine. Also, we came across wild horses, but running. Not just milling around town the way you
fighting.
see. No, just running along with the train, and it's so beautiful. And
Did you do a lot of photography as you went along?
Sure, some photography, but mostly of these abandoned sites, and I find it just breathtakingly beautiful here.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, every single time I step out the door, and whether it's the sagebrush or the entire mountainscape, it's so beautiful. And then I've just had such a good time in the town. Like, the people are so nice.
Yeah.
There's so much fun. There's such a spirit of fun.
Yeah. Don't you get that in Nevada? I mean, it's an open environment here.
So open.
Yeah. And if you're real, they're real, and you can have a
I'm always
nice...
real.
Yeah.
And people are real with me, and that comes through in the photographs.
Sure.
But yeah, and just like in the bars, like people are just loose. You know what I mean? Like, they sing, they dance, they have fun, they spill into the streets. Like, I've really loved this part of Nevada, and it rivals. I've traveled a lot over this last year and a half. I've been home maybe 3 months. And this is one of my favorite places, and it's hard to leave.
Well, spread the word for us, will you?
Absolutely, but I kind of don't want everyone to know about it.
So we keep her around here.
That's right. That's right. So now, what's your next project? I mean, there are a lot of places in the United States that have stories about boom and bust, like Detroit, for example.
Yeah, I lived in Detroit for a while.
Yeah.
That was rough. Oh man, that was one of the rougher places I ever lived.
Toledo, the steel industry.
I would love to do this. Well, so I did the steel industry in Pittsburgh. And I did that directly before coming here. I did it in an old steel mill. It's called the Carrier Furnaces. It's blast furnace remains of USS Steel. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so that was wonderful. And there I went around and talked to all the different unions and invited for free all of their, because they were charging. That's a National Heritage Site, so they charged people to come to the exhibit. But we made it free for union members. And on the night of the opening, man, all these steel workers just came. It was amazing watching them coming across the field.
Do you ever think about going to Montana, up in Butte, Montana?
I want to get to Butte.
Which is a huge copper town.
Yeah.
Wonderful history there. Some gorgeous old buildings. Unfortunately, the smelter has been torn down.
Really?
Yeah. They get the stack
is a big shame.
And Goldfield. And there's tons of pictures of Goldfield. And so one of the sections that I show in this work
there's a lot of gold
is abandoned. There's a lot of gold there still?
Still. If you could get into that hotel at Goldfield and do your show.
I have photographed. Well, there are photographs of that hotel in the piece that I show. They're quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's an amazing place.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of properties.
Really?
He knows the history of Goldfield. Do you know there was a flash flood down there that took the miners out? Didn't that end the mining operations down there because of the flash flood? Yeah. It came right through town.
One flash flood?
Twice it happened.
Burned up once too.
It burned up once. It usually happens in mining towns, So anyway, so where's your next travel? Where are you going to go? What's your choice?
Home for a minute. Well, my choice is that would be different.
Yeah.
My choice would be to get on the Mississippi, and I want to do that as soon as I can.
Yeah. Now, when you do a project say for the foundation up here on the Comstock, do you get paid for your work? Is there a commission paid or what?
No.
I don't want to be too nosy.
No, you can be nosy.
I like being nosy, but.
No, so I did not get paid for the work, but we jointly applied for a grant from the Nevada Arts Council to put it on. And they gave it to us, really to the Comstock Foundation, who then was able to bring me on to do the work.
Wonderful.
So it essentially pays for itself. It doesn't really pay me. I'm not going to pay my bills on this, but I do. But the work pays for itself.
So do you see a momentum building for your kind of work and your kind of photography and story and presentation? In other words, you've done how many? 7 of them probably now. Are you getting calls and saying, "Hey, Valerie, we'd like to have you come to, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and do a thing here, L.A. or whatever"?
People are extremely interested in the work, and they always want me back.
They do.
And so, I mean, what I'm doing is very unique in that I'm projecting directly onto industrial surfaces. I'm not using screens. I'm not using what's called mapping, where they kind of make it perfect. I let the images kind of distort and mix with these textures and surfaces.
But you get a good enough image that you can really
absolutely
see it.
And you can completely see it, and you can more than see it, you can feel it. You can feel it kind of viscerally and texturally. Well, it's so, it's pretty striking.
It is.
So So there's no one actually doing work quite like that. Most people are doing projection. They're doing like neat little light shows or whatever. They're not doing real documentary work and projecting that into real spaces.
Okay.
So yeah, people.
Could you do that for you, Roy, and I? Just do a private showing for us? Since we did
I could give you a good 2-3 weeks worth of work from the macroscopic to the microscopic to the geologic.
Yeah.
And then where is the unusual?
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. When you shoot nowadays, I have heard, just like with recordings.
Yeah.
People went digital for a long time.
Right.
Now they're back to vinyl.
Yeah, because
so now you use digital photography, but you also use film, right?
I only use film.
You only use film.
Yeah, I don't
now,
work digitally at all.
Because it seems to me, everybody's, how many pixels you got and stuff like that.
Well, that's exactly it. If you're using if you're using digital, any digital sensor is made up of a certain number of pixels, right? But if you use a film strip, there are millions of particles of silver gelatin, which is, wow.
Pretty amazing stuff, huh? Imagine.
This is in a
looks like the moon.
Brescia zone where all kinds of weird shapes like this occur.
That's pretty amazing.
This is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It looks almost like bone.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Isn't it very
Or like
unusual?
coral.
Volcanic. Superheated steam.
I always say volcano action there,
Yeah.
What's the actual material?
Have meteoric action there.
This looks. What do you think this is? Is this meteoric?
It's basically iron that's been shaped like that through superheated hydrothermal steam.
That is amazing.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
This is all from the Comstock, right? You're right?
Yeah.
He goes up there and finds this stuff.
But see the physicality of something like this?
Yeah.
Film is also a physical thing. And it's a photochemical process. So I like film. I work on film for
Where
a
do you
couple
buy
of reasons.
film nowadays?
You can buy it anywhere.
You really still get
yeah.
Kodak film?
Yeah. You can still, I've got some in my camera right now.
Most all this material
Show
is
me the
made
camera.
from palladium, which the palladium will look like gold if polished, but otherwise forms a dull kind of a look to
Now, when those cameras that you're using, are they some kind of special camera? Are they high-end cameras? What?
I mean, this is a Voigtlander. They actually call them the poor man's Leica because it's
it's an old-timer camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got film in it.
And so, so there's a couple things about working on film for me. One is I just think film is more beautiful. I think it looks more
rich. Gives it richness?
Yeah, it has more of the magic and the light quality and the texture of life, right? And so that's one thing. The other thing is, when you shoot this has 36 frames. It's only 36 shots. So if I were to take a picture of you right now, I'd take maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. That's it. Then I'm not going to be able to see it until I get it developed.
Right.
Where if I have a digital camera, I'm going to take one, and it'll never be perfect. I mean, if you're a photographer, you're obsessive, so you just keep taking it again and again.
Yeah.
And then so you spend the whole time, taking it and being like, that wasn't quite right. And so I end up spending my whole time with my machine rather than with the people I'm with. And I think the photographs don't end up as good.
Yeah, I think
and
that's
then you
great.
spend all this time at your computer going through them and perfecting them and forget about it. I don't like sitting at the computer. I prefer, I think I much prefer actually an analog work.
So you don't airbrush and all that kind of thing?
I don't do anything. I don't crop them. I do scan my negatives and that's it. But I don't even crop.
Well, listen, Valerie, I hate to cut you off, but we are out of time.
Keep on moving in your life. That's
keep
the way
on
to
shooting.
do it. That'll keep
Thank
you
you.
alive.
Keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Brings us pride to have you here on the show. Brings Nevada pride for the work that you did up on the Comstock.
Being here.
And I know you love being in Nevada. We want to invite you back again. So we enjoy you a lot. Been a great guest up at the hotel. But we want to thank you. We want to thank you, Roy, for bringing the show to the folks today. And I want to thank the audience for being part of it as well. And invite you back next week for another episode of Old Tales Nevada Past and Present. And for Valerie and for you, Roy, and myself, John O'Brien, have a great Nevada day.
Under blue Nevada sky, with a hot sun in his eye, Hugh Roy walked the elk and wild horse trail. Studied earth and sand, with a shovel in his hand. Struck bonanza, gold and silver, platinum ore. Was an old miner's code for good luck to name the strike, so we called it